They did.
All right. So, in looking at the DDI sheets that you guys gave, it seems like out of the questions that were answered most incorrectly most often, the 4.23 is where they were struggling the most. And so I guess when we think about kind of how they went over those, we did realize that one of the issues might have been the stainless steel issue and understanding that that is, has lots of things composed in it. But what were the other ways kind of that we started with those mixtures and solutions topics? So how did they cover those?
We did demonstration.
We started with a Poggle, and then we did some
We
demonstrations.
demonstrated solutions, dissolved solutions. We demonstrated.
We gave them the actual example of those mixtures.
We showed them homogeneous solutions
Heterogeneous,
and we oil and water mixture, marbles, different colored marbles in a jar.
And that one was, did they do any labs for that topic?
Just a demo.
No, well, wait a minute.
And PowerPoint.
They did the didn't we do a lab that included?
When we used the probe.
The probes, right? So that was change of state.
Yeah, change
Right.
of state. That's
Okay.
different.
And so they did the POGL, they had the demonstrations, were there handouts that went with the demos?
No,
Okay, were they
we
taking?
just discussed them.
Okay,
We
so,
discussed them.
and so they had the discussion, and then with the PowerPoints that you did, what did you do with those? Did they have Cornell notes, or were they taking standard notes?
They were taking
Not
notes.
yeah.
Their choice.
It was follow up with an assessment after the PowerPoint.
So it had one at the end, was that their exit ticket?
Yes, I did an exit ticket for that. One thing that I thinking right now, the one that they find it difficult is the stainless steel. We're not able to give them a thorough discussion on it. Though I included that in our review, but that's the only time that I was able to discuss, but not previous.
When I discussed alloys, I discussed gold in terms of carat. I actually did talk about steel, and we did talk about that. But I think that part of the problem is a lack of experience that these children have with the various types of matter.
Because stainless was
They're not-
mixed with
they're not-
other
but they're
mixture,
not-
and then which one is?
But they're not really. If you held up a kitchen knife, they would not know it was made of stainless steel, because this is just like they lack some vocabulary. They lack the experience of analyzing things in there that surround them. I mean, they're worried about sneakers and hair, and I think that they lack experience.
And some of that is if you think about like just even the chemical engineering parts of it, it is kind of sophisticated. And it gives, sometimes it kind of pushes their limits because they think, well, it's just metal, like the knife is made of metal.
Exactly.
Not realizing that that metal is an alloy in the case of stainless
I
steel.
even show this to them. What is this? This is stainless.
Right.
Yeah.
And what it means to make it stainless.
Yeah.
And so I think, and so that's just one example of where that standard could be misconceived, and understanding that most materials are made of a number of different types of things. So in going back to think about how to get them to fully understand the standard, what then become our next moves? So what are we going to use for, in addition to their reflection, but once they're done the reflection, what's going to be our part in?
I think that it would have been helpful, and we didn't do this, but look, upon reflection, have them come up with examples of types of matter. So that way they're drawing on their personal experience and knowledge.
And so, but one of the things that you mentioned were that they were kind of limited in identifying those things in their real life. So how do we get them, how do we get that wheel turning?
Probably more exposure for this kind of thing.
So, and tying those two together, Mr. Weed's example of having them come up with the types of matter found in everyday things, what is your thought, just to have them kind of generate lists and then work back and forth? What would be the thought for that?
I think just identifying everyday things. They can go home, they can walk around the house, they can pull out a tube of toothpaste, bottle of shampoo, box of cereal, household cleaner. There's a million things around the house. What is the silverware made of? What is it really? We call it silverware. Is it really silver?
Yeah. So the real life situation. We need to
pots and pans.
What they usually use at home.
And they can investigate. They have access to the computer. Investigate. Right. What is glass? What is this glass pan made of? What is?
And especially if they take the time to give them the chance to research, but to research by brand, because that's another interesting way to think about things. Is a Corningware knife made of the same percentage of components from a Ginzu knife or something like that?
And every box has a list of ingredients on it that they can analyze.
That I think would work. We haven't gone deeper into that, Ms. Washington. I think that would be a very good strategy next time that we discuss this topic.
And it may also then be worthy, so once they have the list and they've done some research, to give them a chance to do, almost like an infomercial where they're comparing those things. And so this is, how much stronger is this cleaner than another cleaner? And is it based on the fact that the Lysol is 10% water and, 90% bleach, whereas maybe I don't know what's another brand, the bald-headed guy, of what
Mr. Clean.
Mr. Clean is 20% water and 40% bleach.
And then they find out their shampoo is mostly water. They're paying all that money for water.
And so I think that all of those things that gives them a good chance to play around with that in a way that they haven't before. So that's a good place for them to start.
Can I add more? I remember now I just remember we had this kind of activity in my previous school where they're asked to compare different brand of Pampers, baby Pampers, and they were able to figure out, this is better because they were able to explain it.
Right. And so I think that would work for them as well. So that would be one. So that's a new way to do it, is to give them the lab activity based on that. Do you still have like the comparison, like the handout that you used
for
the Pampers?
Yes, I'll find it.
And so that could be changed around to do that with them.
They defended because they have the reason. They were able to research and investigate. Yeah, I forgot that. You should have. That is a better.
Yeah, well, they could do that with anything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They could do that with shampoo. They could do that with household cleaner, pots and pans.
Even the scrubbing pad.
1 minute.
And so when they did the POGL, did they do they did the group part? Were they able to do the extension questions?
Some.
Yeah.
Are there any of those that could tie back around?
Something like assessment after that?
Correct. Or even if they didn't do all of the extension questions, are some of the extension questions tied to that standard that they would be able to go back and answer?
Yes.
Because that would also give you an individual opportunity to double check those things.
Danielle Shaw and Charisma Magon, please report to the main office. Danielle Shaw, Charisma Magon, please report to the main office.
And so, are there any of those pieces that you feel like you should kind of do some small group work with some of them, or is all of this going to be based on kind of whole group approach? Are there any kids that might need pull out? Are we able to go back and identify kind of who really didn't get the standard?
Sure. Yeah, we can go back a little bit too.
Because I think at some point we also want to kind of, because you don't want the girls that get it. Everybody should be able to work the lab activity. I think that's good for all of them for a number of
Ms.
reasons.
Whitehouse, please contact the main office.
But we don't want to miss the chance to kind of dig into a few girls who may need that additional individualized help. I'm over time.
Yep.
Okay.
No, you're right on time.
Okay.
It's 10 minutes.